So this is IDE. So I mean, this is VS Code installed on Mac. And if you see here, I mean, this is written everything. So potentially here, if you want to bring any objects, I mean, I did not bring any objects here. And you can also directly access your arc through here. Let's see. Yeah, and it is connected to Bitbucket. I mean, GitHub through here. I mean, these are various things. I mean, we will slowly go through one of these. I mean, some of these. So if you see here, I mean, this is an arc that I created yesterday. And so these are all the things that are out there. And let's say if you want to bring in any of these, you can simply, either double click this guy or, potentially if you want only this guy, you can just download that one. So this is a local machine, a tool on local machine. You are able to access your arc that you created. So let's say if I want to open the arc, I can straight away, I don't have to go to Salesforce, the browser, type in test.salesforce.com, all that stuff. And also I don't have to remember any of my passwords or anything. So once you save it, so potentially it will open that arc for you. And one more thing, so we won't be working in Classic at all. We'll be working mostly on Lightning Experience, because that is the way to go from Salesforce point of view. Yeah, this is still in Classic. The way when I build this arc, we can switch to Lightning, and we will stay in Lightning. And to give you little tour of the IDE. So let's say if you want to download any objects, let's say account object. So let's say on my local, I don't have any of these things right now. I will say, okay, just download, and immediately it is starting to go to the server. It is fetching all these things. It is downloaded to my local machine. Now, if I switch here, so this is my local, and this is the arc. So that cloud thing, that is Salesforce. And now if I open this thing earlier, if you recall, so there was empty here. Now it got me all these fields. Now let's say if I want to change any of these, it is very simple thing for me, either to create new field or maybe to add something, some list view changes or anything. And I can simply change it here. I can simply right click and say, okay, deploy this source to arc, and it will send that information directly to that arc. And also, since I am connected to some Git, I can easily send this information to Git, and I can create branches there. So I can potentially manage my version control stuff, and I should be able to use that version control to deploy it to higher systems. So that's why they call it as integrated development. You have your arc, you have your local, and you also have your source code that is maintained either in Git or Bitbucket. You will have access to all of those at one single point. And also for those of you already used the developer console, if you want to write some small scripts or anything, so you can directly go here, write some small code here and execute it directly from here. You don't have to go to developer console. And let's say if you want to get some data against this arc, potentially you can use this SOQL builder, and you can directly go there. And so you would immediately add some fields. Okay, if you want to retrieve the name and account fields, and if you say run query, immediately it will go get that thing. So directly, you have access to all your data and everything through this tool. And the only thing, you have to install it first time. Well, once you install it, then you have to authorize your arc, the Salesforce org. And also, if you want to push your changes to version control, you have to basically authorize some GitHub account. I mean, you may want to create some GitHub account and authorize yourself to that, and potentially start pushing your changes to GitHub. I mean, you can manage branches and all. So those are the things that you can do. And with VS Code, I mean, this is the thing I use VS Code. The main thing is, I mean, this is basically you can write Python, you can write Java, JavaScript, anything you can write it on this thing, on this tool. What they do in order to make your Salesforce experience better, so they they give you something called extensions. So let's say if you are working on Salesforce, potentially you install Salesforce extension pack, and so that one will give you all the access to Salesforce related stuff. And I mean, with this ESLint and all, when you are writing some JavaScript code or something, basically it will check for formatting, it will check for syntax errors and those things. This is open source one. And you can also do, I mean, git lens with these things. Potentially you can, especially when you are on multiple developer working experience environment, you may want to know which developer has made some changes, and so those things you can directly, as you are working on the code, you can simply see it. Okay, hey, someone made the change some time ago. All the details directly on the VS Code screen itself, you will be able to see. Lot of good things with IDEs. I definitely encourage all of you to install. I will send you the links. Try to install these things, and maybe if at all we are writing any code, potentially we'll try to write in the IDE rather than going through any developer console or anything. So, and on Apex also, I mean, there are a lot of things. I mean, the bare minimum in things that you need to learn in Apex for any programming language. So potentially, okay, let me actually bring up something. I mean, this is what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, I want to give you a little bit of tour with the Salesforce site also. I mean, when you go to the Salesforce, especially here, when you go, I mean, this is the main page is developer.salesforce.com. Once you go here, you will find a lot of good information here. So potentially, I mean, these are the main things. You go here, potentially install these VS Code extensions, and you also want to install Salesforce CLI. I mean, they give you all the information what you need to install, and there are some video tutorials also how to use these things. And so install these tools, and then there is this Salesforce CLI. So the command CLI, I mean, stands for command line interface here, and that gives you some commands. So let's say if you want to execute some Apex class, how to execute. I mean, either you can go to the interface and you can potentially write it, and then you can send it to the server. Then potentially if it is trigger or something, automatically it will execute. But if you want to execute it on your own, so that's where you go to this execute anonymous kind of thing. You can execute it from here directly. So all you do is select this guy and potentially go here, and you can simply say execute Apex with currently selected thing. And all, I mean, this is very simple thing. All we are saying, okay, we are asking them somebody to enter their name and calling hello world. And here you see potentially immediately you will see the result. And those are the things you can do everything pretty much through the editor here. So that's where this will come handy. And then once you say, okay, how to use the syntax, potentially that is the first thing that everyone will run into. And since Salesforce is the proprietary language I mean, Apex is proprietary language, you have to follow their documentation. how to use the thing. So I mean, if you go here, Apex, this is their Apex development guide. I mean, there is multiple things how to debug and Apex reference and Apex developer guide. If you go here, I mean, getting started with Apex. So here they will tell you, I mean, what is Apex and how exactly it runs, all that stuff, and especially with syntax. So what are the data types? I mean, Salesforce. I mean, obviously, any software will have some primitives, and also primitive means those numbers, the date fields, IDs. I mean, ID, integer, object, all those things, and then lot many other things like you want to define string, you want to define integer, all those things, different data types. I mean, if you see here, I mean, the way you write it, first you define the data type and then your variable name. And if you want to assign, as you are defining a data type, if you want to assign some value, you immediately do that thing. Whereas, let's say if you don't want to define that one immediately, so then if you say, okay, hey, I want to initialize it later, so that's where potentially we'll say it here. And so let's say if I mean, user, we want to ask user to enter something. If user doesn't enter anything, and then we want to initialize something. If potentially, if I mean, this will not happen. So, I mean, these are the if conditions, I mean, the blocks and all, I mean, control flow. Potentially, if you want to write any conditions, how you follow that, what is the syntax? And if you want to go through some loops, so potentially what Salesforce offers. I mean, there are multiple ways you write loops. I mean, you can do while, you can do for loop, and with for loops, you have multiple ways you can go through that. And so I mean there are multiple ways for each syntax. You can use it different number of ways. And so all those things, I mean, if it is a collection, how to collection means a list of values or arrays, and how do you use those different data types potentially. So that those are the things, the syntax, I mean the backbone for any software is their data types, how you use their syntax, all that stuff. I mean, once you go through these documents, so potentially you will be able to understand, okay, what is class, what is the data type, and I mean, typically what is object, what is interface, all that stuff. And from there, I mean, Salesforce may have different use cases. I mean, when you write the code, how you debug the code. So those and then how you deploy the code, all that stuff. And and then especially when you're running on the cloud, especially in a multi-tenant environment like Salesforce, since you have to follow these governor limits and all, and you have to pay attention to these things. I mean, this is very critical. And so how do you make sure, I mean, see, these are the things I was talking. In a let's say if your process, you know, your process is going to take much time, at that time there are different ways to handle that thing. So let's say if the transaction has to happen right there, and if user executes it and if they want to see the result immediately, that's when you have to go for synchronous. And whereas if the situation is like, okay, now the thing has to go to the other system and it has to come back from them, at that time you don't want user to wait. So so you use something like asynchronous concept there. You just send a message, you fire it, you forget. So basically whenever it comes, it will come and it will update the database later. So at that time, since it is you are handing off the work to server and you are not waiting on that, Salesforce will give you a higher limits. So whereas, I mean, you see right here, so if it is synchronous, you have 100 circles that you can query. Whereas if it is asynchronous, and if you are saying, okay, Salesforce do whenever you have time, at that time immediately you are getting some numbers, higher numbers, and some CPU time and all those things will be. So the heap size, you see, it is 6 MB here. It is 12 MB there. And like that, there are some few things immediately you will get higher limits from Salesforce, and you can typically take advantage of those. And also, I mean, there are different ways in with Apex. When you are making callouts, there may be some situations where you want to pass object collection. Callout may not be able to handle those things at that time. You have to go for something called queuable, those different techniques. And so you do write the code based on the situation. So whether it is synchronous, can you go for asynchronous, or do you want to let the other system know something, and you don't want to, you don't worry about what happens later. So those are the things that you would consider how to write your Apex. So those are the things that are documented nicely here. I mean, obviously, if you have time, I would highly encourage you to read through these things. And then finally, so there are the out of the box classes and those things. Let's say you are working on string, and we simply define a string here. We want to know, let's say, I mean, just for the sake of example, we want to know what is the length of the string. And I mean, typically you won't have any situations where you want to know the length of the string, but sometimes your system, you may be storing 256 or 255 characters for a string, but your external system is not capable on their database to hold that much information. So let's take that example, and you are sending an object data into other system, but that other system is not capable of handling that much length. At that time, you have to either you have to ask them, okay, hey, when we send some data, you, before committing to your database, you have to basically cut down to whatever the limit you have. Or the other thing is, you can cut down ahead of time for them and truncate it and send it over. So that's where I mean, some of these references will come handy. So let's say if you want to look for some string class, potentially, I mean, all those things are nicely documented here. And if you want, okay, hey, how do I find length of a string? Potentially, either, I mean, if you Google it directly, we'll get a lot of things. But just for a class, I mean, a string that we defined here, there are a lot of methods that you can use on Salesforce. Let's say if you want to capitalize, I mean, there may be some system, some companies, they want to maintain few things in uppercase. Let's say account name, they want to maintain in uppercase all the time. I mean, you can do it in the flows. Let's say if company says, okay, sometime, I mean, the best practice is, let's say you write some flow and trigger, you have both things are happening on the same object. It's better to limit it to either this or the code, even though Salesforce allows both ways, because there is this thing called order of execution, and the flows will be executed first and then triggers will be executed, or triggers will execute first and the flows will execute later. You run into all those different things. So that's why it's better to limit to one way of doing, at least for each object. Let's say if it is a complex object, it's always better to go with trigger, because you can write efficient code, but maybe you may not be able to do a very good job with flows all the time. And you may not be able to write for each and everything. Let's say you have a business scenario, you want to throw some errors to end users if they don't meet certain criteria. So sometimes validation rules may not be able to do all of that efficiently, and you have to go for either flow or Apex. I believe flows doesn't support throwing any errors at this point of time, and you are the only way for you to do those business requirements is to go for Apex. And I mean, that's where these things will come. Basically, for each object, and in Salesforce, every object is called S object, and so there will be one class called S object, and on that there will be a lot of methods. So each method each object, account, contact, and everything will is nothing but an subject in Salesforce. Basically, Salesforce object. I think that's the name. So if you want to send any error, so potentially use this method. You check some condition. Okay, if your condition is true, potentially you write some error. The moment you say add error, it is as equivalent to as you writing a validation rule. And the validation rule typically, so you can go up to the parent and find something, but if the validation rule is such that, okay, hey, you need to check some children object, at that time the Apex won't work, sorry, and the validation rules won't work. You end up writing Apex. And just to write an error message, there will be multiple things that you can do. So I mean, you see here lots and lots of methods that are available while you are writing a subjects. I mean, like that, Salesforce gives a lot of things. I mean, if you want to commit something to database, there is something called database class, and you write a lot of things. I mean, using that namespace, you will find a lot of database classes, and you can commit a lot of things using that one. So like that, I mean, there are Salesforce has given a lot of useful utilities that we can use based on our needs. So yeah, I mean, these are the things potentially we can go through some use cases. We will use some of the tools that we discussed. And I mean, my main thing is I'll try to walk you through, or maybe help you uh, to get there. Basically, I mean, I may not be able to spoon feed all of you, but at least if you follow the flow, potentially, I'm hoping you'll be in a position to find the information where you can go for particular information. What is the best thing that you need to choose, and that kind of stuff I can help you.
Yep. That would be helpful, Shrikant.
Yeah. So, I mean, couple of things. What we can do by next class. I want all of you to install the IDE, and yeah, I would also send a lot of. I don't want to call them homework, but some exercises that you can do on your own, and potentially Salesforce. The best thing that Salesforce has done, the trailhead. Potentially, I mean, you can go to trailhead. Pick up some developer path, and you can do pretty much on your own lot of stuff. Trying to find something. And with the with the trailhead, the main thing is it will act as your resume. Most of the time, if you have done a lot of work, that speaks for you. So basically, I would say sometimes I read a lot of documentation. I also try to do some exercise on trailhead so that I can basically get some points and those things. Yep, something DX450, I think. Yeah, I'll find something. Actually, I had something. Um, um, cut the course name. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to go through. I mean, if you see here, I mean, I want you to go through this thing. This one will help you with the flow and everything. So here, this is the Apex quick start. I mean, start from here and maybe potentially go through this. I mean, these will definitely help you understand a lot of concepts. And also, as you are working through, I mean, create your own profile and I mean, get some points for all of this. So as you are working through, and I mean, some of them will say, okay, go to developer console, maybe try to leverage VS Code for those things. And I mean, I will try to go through some of these with you. And also the testing, this is the one I didn't cover. Apex testing, I mean, every code that you, every line of code that you write in Apex, let's say you create a class and you have, in order for you to deploy it to production, Salesforce will mandate you to write the test class. So you have to have enough code coverage. Let's say if you write 100 lines of code for a class, if you don't have 75 lines of code covered for that class, Salesforce won't even let you to promote the code to production. So you need to know how to write test classes, and that becomes very important for you. And also, I mean, the code coverage is not important. The main thing is testing the functionality. Let's say if you write some Apex code, whatever it is doing, you have to create some test data. I mean, while the test is running on the fly, and you have to verify whatever you wrote in the class is working properly. Let's say when a new release comes in, Salesforce may break that functionality, or maybe a new business requirement comes, and maybe the new business requirement might be saying a contradictory thing that whatever the previous business requirement said. So at that time, maybe you as a developer, let's say I worked on it, I moved on to the from the company, and you are filling my position, and maybe your business partner or BSA, whoever is working, so or BA, so they also left the company, and basically a new set of people come, and they don't know what was developed, but they just have got some new requirements. And when the developer is working on that, potentially if that is a totally contradictory business requirement from a different group, at that time, when the new developer implements that one, and if I wrote my test class that before I was leaving, and as soon as you write the new functionality, you try to deploy it, you are forced to write your test class, or you at least have to run my test class that I have written. And the moment you implemented new business functionality on your main class, but you did not touch the test class. So what is going to happen? My test class will still expect the previous behavior. Immediately my test will fail. At that time, basically it opens little things for the development process, whether the earlier requirement is correct or the new requirement is correct, or do we have to basically work, I mean, both requirements need to work. Basically, based on the previous requirement, it may be good for one business unit. Now it is a new business unit, they don't need this functionality, but the previous business unit still need that old functionality. You have to make sure both work at the same time, or you have to fix the test class. Hey, going forward, this is the new functionality, this applies to old business unit also. You let me fix the test class. I mean, those are the things that you need to account while writing the test class. So not only code coverage, but it also helps you find some bugs. So this is something we call regression. While you are developing new functionality, you don't want to break the existing functionality. That is the regression. And so if it is expected, potentially you change your test classes and all. So those are the things that we need to make sure the system is working as expected. And yeah, I mean, those are the things we will go through slowly one by one. and the security is top most important thing in Salesforce. And so let's say you have a business requirement saying, okay, hey, this business unit should be seeing these accounts, but they should not be seeing some other account. Maybe so and so seller should be seeing only his packet of accounts, but not others. But customer service should be seeing all the accounts in the company because they can get the calls from any customer. So those are the things how you define the security. So I mean, some of them you can do declaratively. Some of them, I mean, even when you are writing code, you still need to account for those. So those are the things you have to cover, how to do those in the best effective way. So those are all the things that you as a developer is responsible for. And I mean, we can go through some of these in the next classes. But I will let me send you the links. Yeah, I mean, these are the CLI stuff. Let me see. Yes, I think this one is a good one. Yeah, give you this. I mean, if you see here what they are doing, so if you they installing these things. Yeah, so here to install Visual Studio Code, visit this guide. So potentially we'll go here. You will click this link, code.visual studio, and here it will, I mean, most of the time it will automatically identify your system. If it is Mac, potentially it will automatically default to Mac. If it is Windows, potentially you change this guy, you download this guy, and you install it. Once you install it, yeah, follow these instructions here. If at all they want you to make any changes, some parameters they might ask you to change. And also the system need to have your local machine, so it needs to have certain Java install Java version so that the IDE can work. And then install the Salesforce CLI. So this is the command line interface. I mean, if I go here, let's say if I type something, SFDX update. Basically, it is a Salesforce CLI, and it has to understand what is SFDX means. That's where you need to install this CLI. And once you install the CLI, so potentially then Salesforce knows, okay, what, I mean, since you install it on this machine, it knows what this command is. But if you go to your terminal right now, if you try to execute SFDX or something, it will say, okay, hey, I don't know what SFDX means. Potentially, it will say a wrong command or something. And those are the things. I mean, I want you to install Salesforce CLI and the VS Code, both. Please install it. And yeah, this is the Java runtime, the JDK. And you don't, most of the time, I think your systems will have it already. If not, I think you may need to install Java also. I mean, there is no way you can escape from these things, even though it is little uncomfortable for you right now. Please install this. That way, it is going to make your job little easy. I mean, when you go to any client, I mean, they don't expect you to use developer console. So most of the time, we would be using some of these tools. I mean, here I'm using VS Code. I mean, it is a free tool. I mean, done by Microsoft. I mean, but can work with any software. I mean, most of the softwares. I mean, Salesforce highly recommends using VS Code. And once you install VS Code on Salesforce CLI, the main thing that you need is this guy, Salesforce extension pack. And so here, I mean, either you can go follow this marketplace, or you can, I mean, you can directly install from here, or you can even go once you install IDE, so you can directly go here and just look for Salesforce extension pack. And I mean, it has at least 6 or 7. So it comes with Salesforce, the first one. You see here, I mean, the moment you install Salesforce extension pack, I mean, don't install these individually. It brings, I mean, some tooling for Apex, some tooling for CLI, Quora component, Visual Force, SLDS, SOQL, LWC, the interactive debugger, VK debugger. All of these 9 things automatically comes once you install extension pack. I mean, you also see these individual things. You don't want to install these individual ones. Just pick this extension pack, so that will install all of them for you. And that way you have latest and greatest and all that you need. And once you have that thing, I mean, potentially when you do this SFDX update periodically, I mean, Salesforce update these binaries pretty much every week, I think, and you get the latest and greatest things that Salesforce is developing. So, I mean, that's the tooling that you might need by next class. Please follow these things, and if at all you run into any problem, please ping me. I will try to either help you. Maybe we can always go on screen share or something. And at least by the time we meet next time, I want everybody to have these tools installed so that we can start something. Are we good? And do
Yes, Shrikant,
you?
if you don't mind, can you share those in the WhatsApp group?
Oh yeah. Sorry. And also, yeah, if you haven't done already, maybe create a new developer edition. Let me send you this link first. So when you are going here, I will start from here, get started. And that's where we got these 3 things. Visual, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio Salesforce extension, and Salesforce CLI. So 3 things that you may need to install. Then please create a developer instance. And I mean, this is nothing but the one that you typically create. Uh, let's see. Yeah, this is the one. I mean, since Salesforce doesn't mandate you on how many developer actions you can have, please try to create a new one. I mean, if you try to use an existing one, potentially if you have written any workflows or process builders or validation rules, those might stop some of our work. So that's why it's better for you to create a new instance, and let's use a new instance. And I mean, when we went through developer, the admin training, I asked you to create a free training one. We don't need that one. So I mean, those ones, all of you whoever created, so those should be expired by now, because the only are valid for 30 days. Now this one, whatever you are going to create, this one will be with you forever, as long as you log into this instance at least once a year or something. But I mean, if you write some code, I mean, typically if you want to have it for you for later, so you better do those things in this developer versions. I mean, earlier we used to do all of that in this. Now, potentially, let's say if you write some Apex code or batch class that you want to leverage for later, you better save it to Git. I mean, you also, I mean, slowly we will get into Git. How, I mean, once you develop something, how you can push that work onto the Git, your project and all. So we can go slowly go through those things later point. So let's slowly get into Apex. Do few things on the Apex. Potentially, we can slowly move up. Yeah, yeah. So please do those things by next class. And where is that thing? Let me send you the other link also, trailhead link. Yeah, I mean, I like this thing. I mean, there is, I mean, it is for the, to me, it looks more of entry level one. You can, if you have some time, go through this platform basics so that will give you some idea. If not, maybe at least start with this Apex from here. So yeah, I mean, as I said, most of it, I mean, I can only guide you. It's all in you, how much effort you can put in. So based on that, I mean, it's all about reading. I mean, there is a lot of information out there. You don't need to come to me. I mean, definitely, there is a lot of information. I can simply guide you in the right path. Yeah, I mean, always, if you have questions, if it is, I mean, if you don't understand anything, if you are not comfortable asking in the group scenario, please ping me on WhatsApp. I mean, I'll try to spend some time with you guys. Try to see if I can address any of those things. I mean, sometimes it initially the syntax things are little tricky. I mean, at least I will guide you through, okay, how you read the documentation or how you can find information, maybe either YouTube or maybe Stack Exchange is one thing where typically we go for our questions and being answered. And maybe I can walk you through some of those things. Yeah, feel free. I mean, whatever works for you. So if you are comfortable asking in the group scenario, we can do it here. And if at all you think, okay, maybe you may be using other people time. So at that time, please try to ping me offline. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything is not clear, please let me know. And if at all you want me to go slow or maybe cover something in detail, or if I mean if you notice something somewhere, and if you have some questions, please bring them here. So if we can't do it in the same class, at least we can do it later classes.
Sure,
Okay.
Srikanth. Yeah.
I think we can stop it here. Let's see. I mean, I will touch base with Sampath. We will see when we can. I mean, maybe let's hear from you. What days and what time works for you? Is this time okay, 8 o'clock, or you want little later? What do you think time wise? I think Shirisha, you
Time.
are on East Coast, and Kishore, you are also
Yeah.
on East Coast.
Yep.
And Nalini, I don't know what time zone are you on.
I'm in Central, Srikanth.
Okay, so you may be, I mean, yeah, mostly you may be okay, I think.
I'm in
Yes,
Central too.
I'm 8 o'clock works for me, Srikanth. Yeah, Central time.
Good, good. So, and Pravina, I hear you, you are also Central.
No, I'm Eastern.
Oh, you are East. So, time wise, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bharti, are you okay with time or
Yeah, Shrikant, I'm okay at the time.
good?
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I mean, we can cover a few things slowly, and as I said, we may not be able to go everything in very detail, but at least I can give you the supplement documentation. So what, I mean, what you should be reading for each and everything that we do. That way, you can do a few things on your own, and I mean, idea is to cover some topics that are useful for you. And based on how you feel, potentially we will move on to, I mean, we will decide whether to go with LWC or the integration pieces, some of these. I mean, I definitely want you to learn Apex, and I want you to be comfortable with some of these IDE thing and maybe GitHub, those things, because so you cannot get away with those. But sometimes some clients may say, okay, hey, I don't want fancy UI. If it is a small customer, they don't, I mean, they don't even want you to write single piece of code. I mean, I have seen one customer, they don't want us to write any line of code. So basically they say, okay, I mean, it is possible. So it is kind of a project, I mean, decent sized project that we are working on. And they don't want us to write single code. I mean, we are just going with the declarative stuff. I mean, you can still get the things done. So that's the beauty with Salesforce. If client is not so picky about UI and they don't want a lot of maintenance, I mean, everything that you write code is maintenance. So for client, they have to basically maintain API versions. They have to maintain the code every release. They have to make sure, okay, the code is working fine. Whereas if you go with the declarative stuff, Salesforce will guarantee that, okay, it will work. And so, I mean, those are some beauty things with Salesforce. You can do declarative without any developer need, so you can still get the things done. And even developer, I mean, they don't have to write all code. Basically, if they find something easily done, can be done with flows, and there is no impact down the line performance wise, I mean, they can opt for flows also. I mean, flows are definitely, Salesforce is putting a lot of effort into it. And yeah, so that one is equally good with Apex now. Yeah, I mean, I did not do a lot of Visual Force. I may not be able to do any good job with Visual Force even if I touch that one. And also, since it is very outdated thing, I want to skip it. But if you want to learn, I mean, there is a lot of documentation out there, but it is definitely not that much worth. I mean, if you are really interested in learning some UI things, please put in effort on this thing. There is a lot of good documentation again. I mean, a lot of videos, everything is available. Put in effort on LWC. And modules wise, maybe I want to cover a few things on modules. Salesforce, as you know, so when they are growing very, very big. I mean, like SAP, how many modules? I don't know they have. So same thing with Salesforce. They are coming up with plenty of modules. So they say CPQ, they say sales, they say, I mean, if you call customer service, I mean, service, if you say revenue, if you say manufacturing, basically for everything, they have a cloud. Marketing, they have a cloud. And everything, I mean, they are growing big time, and also e-commerce. So they are now building e-commerce thing that is going to, I mean, there are not many developers out there who can work on e-commerce stuff. I mean, I myself don't even know anything there. I read a lot of documentation, but they don't even give you any trial org or anything to practice. That makes it little tough, but I mean, it is a very, very, I mean, I'm hoping it is going to be very hot market out there. Going maybe, if not now, at least 2-3 years down the line. Even, I mean, the good thing with Salesforce, I mean, even though their product is not up to the mark, they know how to sell. So basically to the customers, I mean, once they sell to customers, I mean, there are plenty of jobs. Basically, once customer buys, I mean, customer has to make it work one way or other, because they are already spending money on the licenses and all. I mean, that creates a lot of jobs. I mean, I see good future with Salesforce. I mean, if you ask me for a big enterprise, whether Salesforce is a good solution, I mean, I can't really say yes, because the way Salesforce pricing model and all, it is definitely very expensive for any organization of big size. But for a small organization, I mean, because they are giving everything, you don't need to install. I mean, sometimes you don't even need developer. You can do things declaratively. Sometimes, I mean, customer themselves, they can do a lot of things with Salesforce without even doing any of these things. I mean, they can run. So potentially, I mean, these are all the things nice to have. I mean, for a medium to big customer, they need all of this. But for a few small companies, they can even run their business simply with this. I mean, sometimes without even doing anything, basically, I mean, they take it, they can use it. I mean, you have bare minimum things that are working. You can create appointments, you can create account contacts, you can run your business simply without even doing anything. I mean, even just by buying software. I mean, when you have some requirements, slowly you expand with these things. And if customer has money, if they have more fancy requirements, these are all things comes in. I mean, obviously, the moment integration comes in, all these things come. I mean, that's how the ecosystem will evolve. And there are a lot of modules, and there is a lot of future for sure with Salesforce. Yeah, with that, I think we can end the day. It's almost 2 hours now. Yeah, I mean, is Sunday okay for everybody? I mean, Sunday might be a good day to meet again. Sunday night around same time.
Okay.
And
Okay.
how about others? Yeah, maybe Sampath will start some discussion. So let's see. I mean, mostly, I mean, for me, I mean, weekdays, evening, definitely, and even on the weekdays, I think it's better if we do over the night. And I mean, typically 2 hours each day, if we can spend, I mean, whenever we meet, that would be ideal. And meanwhile, please try to install those things and try to go through some of those. And if you have any problem installing the software, please ping me. We will see if we can get that going.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good night.